have so much information for you guys. This video is being filmed as part of a series I'm doing for our Facebook group for all the newbies who join day after day. I get so many private messages and I just need a place to be able to send them where they can get a start with some free information. And I'm going to be reading to you guys today from FND Recovery Guide, Volume 1, Chapter 9. But this is going to be so helpful for you guys. It's a whole complete list of symptoms for FND, and I actually gathered a lot of this list by polling the Facebook group when it was in its younger form. And then I pulled in extra research so that I wouldn't miss anything. So the name of it is Functional Neurological Disorder, FND Recovery Community, and you want the private group. So anyway, this is a complete list of symptoms, and I want you, while you're listening, to be thinking in your head how many of these symptoms you have. I've heard that people present differently, and the reading will start by going over my personal symptoms, but then it's going to go into a full-on list of the symptoms. Now, this is also available on my website because the captions may not be all spell checked and everything. I have a very limited time to record this kind of content for you guys. And my website is https://blackfamilyhomestead.com/FND recovery guide. You would scroll down to where you see this book, and then you would click to read a free excerpt, and it's all on there. I even included the references that apply to this section. Together, it's 725 sources that are cited in this series. It is available on Amazon, and this video is sponsored by them. So now that we've paid our bills, let's go on to the free information. I'm going to start reading on page 241 of Volume 1. FND, it's real. To all the caregivers out there, let me assure you, functional neurological disorder, FND, is very, very real. And it's no picnic. In fact, it's far worse for the person who has it than it is for you. And by the way, I say that, I know that caregivers feel absolutely terrible and it affects their lives in a negative way. My husband, and I'm not reading this, I'm just telling you guys, my husband had a breakdown and my mom took care of me, but this was during the same time as she was taking care of her dad at the end of his life. It was horrible for my caregivers. And so I know that if you have a child or something who has FND or a spouse, it's horrible for you. But this is just in here as a reminder that it's probably even more horrible for the person who has it. It's their body that's not working. So back to the reading. While you might get a break every now and then, they don't. They're trapped in a body that refuses to cooperate, moment by moment, day after day. When I'm experiencing FND, what I need most is nurturing, peace, and quiet. Sometimes the simplest gestures make the biggest difference. A long, steady hug from my husband can work wonders. It reminds me I'm not alone even when my body feels alien. The FND fog feeling. How do you feel right before you get symptoms? My CBT provider once asked me. It was a simple question, but it unlocked a pivotal realization. Until that moment, I had never stopped to examine the sensations that preceded my symptoms. Reflecting on that question, I began to notice a pattern, a distinct feeling that would envelop me before the symptoms took hold. I started calling it the FND state. It was like a dense, invisible cloud that blurred my thoughts, heightened my emotions, and triggered an overwhelming sense of unease. My muscles scrunched up, ready to fight an unseen threat. My heart would race. I might get shortness of breath. It was like living in a fog. We covered the scientific details behind the FND fog feeling in Chapter 3. Basically, the FND fog feeling is how you feel when the quadruple F, fight, flight, fawn, freeze response takes over your body. But early in my journey, I had only my intuition to guide me. Medical care and information were sparse, so I pieced together my experiences, trying to make sense of the chaos. The feeling often began with my heart racing and my mind spinning in circles. My thoughts would become jumbled, and sometimes I felt an uncontrollable urge to scream. It was as if my body was flooded with adrenaline while simultaneously drained of all energy. A maddening contradiction. Looking back, I now understand this was a manifestation of the human danger response: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. Depending on the day and the circumstance, my body might go straight to freeze, straight to another F, or straight to a combination of any of the 4F responses. What made it even more bewildering was how small and seemingly insignificant events could trigger this extreme reaction. For example, one day I heard the faint, unexpected noise of the recliner's footrest snapping closed. My back was turned as I walked down the hall, and the sound startled me. In an instant, my body reacted. I collapsed to the floor, paralyzed by the freeze response. This is such a stupid story, but it's a perfect illustration. Like, I'm walking back to my room from the bathroom, and I'm in my 30s. I had to move in with my parents after my husband had a breakdown, and I needed somebody to take care of me, like cook food for me and make sure I could live, because my body wasn't working. I was on the floor constantly. Sometimes I couldn't talk. Sometimes partially bedbound, partially mute. It was horrible. Constant, like seizures, tremors. It was just absolutely horrible. Cognitive fog. And so I'm in my parents' home in my 30s trying to recover from FND, and I think I was probably walking back down the hall from the bathroom, or the pantry, the kitchen, or something, because my room was at the end of the hall, and my dad's in the living room sitting in a recliner, and just something as simple as boop, he puts the footrest down while I'm not looking. That startled me, and I fell to the floor, having an FND symptom. It was horrible. Like, that is the stupidest thing for the body to go into this extreme stress response over, but that's just one example of what my body would do. And I equate falling to that freeze response. So anyway, let's keep reading. The FND symptom cluster. When the FND fog feeling took hold and I pushed myself to power through, I often experienced what I call an FND symptom cluster. These episodes could include any number of symptoms from my growing list with varying intensity. It felt like my body was cycling through a malfunctioning operating system, randomly throwing errors. Depending on the day, the triggers, and how far I'd already pushed myself, my symptoms ranged from manageable to utterly debilitating. Sometimes I'd cycle through the 4Fs in rapid succession: fight, flight, freeze, or fawn, or I'd experience them simultaneously, amplifying the chaos. The longer I tried to press forward and ignore the fog, the worse the symptoms became. All right, here's a list of my personal experiences, and then we're going to get into the full list from the group. 9.4, the FND symptoms I experienced. My personal FND symptoms. Living with functional neurological disorder, FND, means facing a bewildering array of symptoms that affect every facet of daily life. From the overwhelming sensory experiences to unpredictable motor, speech, and cognitive challenges, FND is hard to live with. I know this all too well. I felt the terror and isolation that come with being trapped inside a body and mind that don't work. I've lived through many of the symptoms of functional neurological disorder, FND, each one devastating in its own way. Each moment a reminder of how my life was slipping from my grasp. The journey through FND was an unpredictable nightmare. But I've come to understand that each symptom tells a story about how my brain was struggling to make sense of the world. Here are some of my most life-altering symptoms I experienced. Sudden falls. This became perhaps my longest lasting and most severe symptom. At any given moment, my legs would give out, sometimes at the knees, other times at the waist, sending me crashing to the ground. It felt like my body was betraying me. I would sometimes manage to catch myself in a squat, but more often than not, I was helpless as my body went limp. I'd be flung to the floor without warning. Oddly, I could often protect my head instinctively, an automatic response that prevented me from harm. Looking back, I realized how deeply intelligent the body is, forcing me into rest without causing permanent injury. The science behind this is the freeze response, where the body's natural stress response can trigger sudden physical immobility. And there's a whole list of sources after that. I'm not even going to try to read them all to you. And the next thing is cognitive fog. It was as though my thoughts were scattered in 1,000 different directions. Everything felt slow and disorganized. Trying to think clearly was like trying to catch water in my hands. Cognitive slowing, or bradypharenia, is a well-known symptom of FND where both mental processing and physical movements are delayed, often described as moving through deep mud. Lee's 1994. And I would say, even though I'm about 95% healed now, occasionally when I'm overloaded, I get the cognitive slowing still. And I would kind of equate it to a non-epileptic seizure, wherein the brain is just not quite working right, but it's just for a limited time. And my husband gets frustrated, but when I use the word seizure, that seems to help him know to be more sensitive. And I feel like that's a good bridge word. If you're somebody, this is just an aside, this is a tip for you. If you're somebody who has this symptom or your child has it, maybe look into whether it could be a non-epileptic seizure, and then, because there's a bunch of kinds of them and we'll discuss them later in this reading actually. And I found for me that if I used the word seizure, that seemed to give me a more compassionate response as opposed to just straight up frustration. And I can actually empathize with him a little bit on that because I remember as a teacher, I can't give too many details of the story away because I don't want to say like who it was, but I had a student that had a potential injury, and then he was displaying this slow, like wouldn't he wouldn't answer me in class one day or something. And I was kind of taking it as disrespect. And okay, here's the consequence for that. Like you have to listen, you have to do what you're told in class. But now that I've had FND and have had these seizures, I think maybe he was just having some kind of a seizure and couldn't, So I have a little bit of empathy when you've not experienced this and you're just seeing it from the outside. It could look to you like this person is just not cooperating. They're not pulling their fair share. They're expecting too much of me as a caretaker, right? Because you're expecting them to be your equal, but in that moment they need a caretaker. So that's just a little, maybe see if it possibly could be a seizure, and if it is, use the word seizure. Anyway, let's keep on reading. Speech impairment. Words would escape me, and when I could find them, they were often jumbled. Sometimes all I could muster were short, broken sentences like need food. Other times I couldn't speak at all, only able to make a pitiful noise. This is an example of how the brain's speech centers can be temporarily disrupted by FND, resulting in speech impairment. Barnett et al., 2019. Noise sensitivity. Everyday sounds became unbearable. A noise as small as the click of the closing foot of a recliner was enough to send me to the floor. I began carrying earplugs with me everywhere, constantly taking them in and out as my sensitivity fluctuated. By the way, I still do the earplugs thing. My husband is from the Army. He's a disabled combat veteran, and I think he might have a little bit of hearing loss or something. He doesn't wear a hearing aid or anything, but he was a gunner, and he's just like naturally he's broad chested. I mean, very attractive. I think the broad shoulders, they're so attractive, but it comes along with a booming voice. And my noise sensitivity just doesn't do very well with a booming voice. So I actually just carry earplugs with me wherever I go, and I take them in and out as needed. Sometimes a lingering symptom is noise sensitivity, but I also think it may be that at this point I'm so habituated to stuff not being so loud that as I'm able, I should probably do some work towards tolerating the noise. But for now, this is still something that I do. Let's continue reading. It felt as if the volume of life was always switching between normal and someone shouting into a megaphone. The heightened sensitivity to sound in FND is linked to how the brain processes sensory inputs, with many patients reporting that normal sounds become overwhelming and distorted. Ranford et al., 2020. And as another aside, I put let me just resituate myself in my chair for a second. I put a video, I think over on TikTok, where I was having one of these spells, let's say. Maybe it's part of a seizure too, who knows. But this noise sensitivity episode. And I turned the volume on my screen in the living room. I was watching something, probably I was playing something. And I turned the volume all the way down to like 1. I could still hear it. And that's kind of an example of noise sensitivity. It's like sometimes the volume is just turned up in your head. Like the volume, if everything were a radio, the volume outside, like in normal life, isn't turned up, but your receiver is turned up. It's like turned up inside of your head. And so that's the reason to wear earplugs. Let's keep reading. Functional seizures. Imagine shaking uncontrollably while still fully aware. Functional seizures, or psychogenic non-epileptic seizures, PNES, are just that. Convulsive episodes without the brain's electrical discharges that characterize epileptic seizures. They result from disruptions in how brain networks communicate, and while the shaking can feel like a seizure, the person remains conscious, providing a critical difference from epileptic seizures. Ruber et al., 2002. Functional tremors. My right hand would shake uncontrollably, rotating back and forth quickly like a freshly caught flopping fish. This kind of tremor is typical in FND, known as a functional tremor, where the shaking is inconsistent and can often be reduced or worsened depending on distraction. The sign that brain function, not muscle damage, is at the root of the problem. Stone et al., 2021. Functional cognitive motor slowing. Moving felt like trudging through thick, sticky mud. Each step felt heavy as if my body was slowing down, unable to keep pace with my thoughts. I initially thought I might be experiencing absence seizures, but in truth, I was probably suffering from functional cognitive motor slowing. Research shows that in neurological disorders, brain disruptions can make it hard to think and move at the same time. Veldkamp et al. 2021. In FND, similar brain changes may explain the feeling of both mental and physical slowing. That kind of probably goes hand in hand with that cognitive fog paragraph that we were reading. Visual overstimulation. The world would become overwhelming. When large crowds gathered, like after church service, the sheer amount of movement would send my brain into overload. Everything around me would become too much to process. Visual overstimulation is a known symptom of FND where sensory input becomes so intense that the brain struggles to make sense of it all, often leading to confusion or a heightened sense of disorientation. McLean et al. 2022, FND Hope, ND Neurosymptoms.org, ND Screaming episodes. Sometimes the frustration built up so much that I couldn't hold it in any longer. My emotions exploded in the form of uncontrollable screaming. This was my fight response, but it was trapped inside my body. In FND, emotional responses can become dysregulated, often leading to episodes like these where anger or frustration bursts out uncontrollably due to disruptions in how the brain processes emotions. Van Dijel et al. 2024, Huff et al. 2025. And I'm going to add those screaming episodes, that probably goes back to the fight or flight response being highly activated, like more often than it should be and way more strongly than it should be. And that's probably a manifestation of the fight response. So the falling would be like the freeze response, but the screaming is probably like the fight response. Let's keep reading. Neck gives out. My head would feel unbearably heavy, and for a moment my neck couldn't support it. My head would drop forward like a newborn's, and I'd be left in a crumpled heap. This symptom, known as functional weakness of the neck, reflects how FND disrupts the brain's regulation of voluntary motor control, making movements like holding up one's head nearly impossible at times. Vision problems. I have excellent vision. I don't need glasses or contacts. In fact, while one eye is 20/20 vision, my other eye is even better than normal 20/30 visual acuity, but after I got FND, at times I'd see spots or one particular dead pixel in my left eye. This distorted my vision, adding to my confusion and disorientation. Visual disturbances like this, where patients report seeing spots or flashes, are a common experience in FND, often arising from how the brain misinterprets visual information. Ramsey et al. 2024. Pardon me, I'm going to set this down on my desk so you guys might not be able to see it all the time, but I am still going to be reading from this book. Temperature sensitivity and regulation trouble. The cold would hit me like a shock wave, even when the temperature around me didn't warrant it. Similarly, I'd often get chills in warm environments. Both temperature sensitivity and regulation issues are known in FND, where the brain's inability to process sensory signals can lead to abnormal perceptions of cold or warmth, difficulty switching tasks, and multitasking. Once upon a time, I could juggle multiple tasks effortlessly, writing a paper, listening to a podcast, and managing background noise without issue. Now my brain could only focus on one thing at a time. Multitasking became an impossible task, as my brain couldn't handle the influx of thoughts. In FND, this is a common cognitive impairment where the ability to switch attention between tasks is severely impaired. And there's a whole bunch of sources there. Teodoro et al. 2018, Vechetova et al. 2022, De Vroge et al. 2021. And by the way, in the captions, I'm probably not going to take the time to go through and make sure everything's spelled right, so you might just want to read this on my website so you can see the correct spelling and source material. I have limited time to do this, and I'm so sorry, so hopefully at some point I'll have the energy to do a better quality videos for you guys, but this is what I can do at this point in time. It's just going to have to be good enough. All right, let's keep reading. Startling easily. I became so easily startled that my body would flinch at the smallest sound or movement. This heightened startle reflex is another aspect of FND caused by disruptions in the brain's sensory processing symptoms. Stone et al. 2005, 2009, and 2021. Chronic fatigue. For so long, I had no energy. There's an analogy you may have seen online that compares energy to spoons. Some days you wake up with just 4 spoons. Other days, you might have 400. Let's say your daily routine of basic tasks takes 40 spoons, but today you only have 4. That's what chronic fatigue feels like. You must prioritize the most necessary tasks, leaving many things for others. If you prioritize the wrong task and hit a roadblock, it's frustrating and disheartening. You spent what little energy you had on something that gives no return. On a day when you have more spoons, though, you don't feel as hopeless when faced with obstacles because you have enough energy to waste some without the same level of despair. Get it? Recent studies shed light on why this happens. Research has shown that chronic fatigue can stem from disruptions in the autonomic nervous system and mitochondrial dysfunction. which means the body's energy systems are literally less efficient. Germain et al. 2022. This explains why even simple tasks can feel like monumental efforts, and why on some days is a fight just to keep going. The good news is there is hope for healing. It takes time, patience, and deeper understanding what's happening inside your body. 9.5 high stakes decision. If I had resigned myself to my fate and refused to fight for a cure, I never would have found a cure, and I would still be miserable every day. I'm glad I chose to fight, fight, fight. 9.6. This is a part we've all been waiting for, and maybe I'll put a timestamp down in the comments or the descriptions for those of you who just want to fast forward to this point. Common symptoms, a comprehensive overview of FND's impact on the body and mind. A complete list of FND symptoms. And by the way, I got this not only from compiling my own symptoms, but also from polling my Facebook group. And it is called, once again, Functional Neurological Disorder, FND Recovery Community, and you want the private version. It's a free group over on Facebook. Come see us. That's what I'm recording this for. While my experience with functional neurological disorder was severe, I recognize that FND manifests in many different ways. Some individuals experience symptoms I didn't face, such as chronic pain. To create a comprehensive list of FND symptoms, I reached out to the broader FND community. In January 2025, I polled my Facebook support group, which at the time had just over 600 members. I encouraged people to share their symptoms without worrying about perfect wording. I used ChatGPT to reword their responses and eliminate duplicates, making it easier for those already dealing with cognitive difficulties. For the most complete list possible, I also added my own symptoms as well as symptoms shown in other research. Here is the compiled list of symptoms formatted for ease of reading. You can also visit our group where the raw data from this poll is available, and feel free to add your own symptoms there as well. Fluctuating symptom severity. While not a specific symptom, the unpredictable nature of FND is a hallmark of the condition. Symptoms can fluctuate in intensity or change from day to day. This variability is important for setting patient expectations and helping clarify the clinical picture. Additionally, there are a few key patterns to note. Symptoms are often localized to one side of the body. Almost all symptoms occur intermittently, meaning they come and go rather than being constant. Many symptoms are interconnected and can occur in a specific order or progression. Now let's dive into the specifics. Seizures and tremors. Seizures are a common symptom in functional neurological disorder, FND, but understanding them can be confusing due to the variety of terms and types. To make things easier to grasp, let's break it down into 3 simple concepts. 1. Shaking versus no shaking. Some seizures involve shaking or tremors while others don't. You might see someone physically tremble or jerk, but in other cases, the seizure could look like a loss of awareness without any visible shaking. 2. Awareness of the seizure. In some types of seizures, the person experiencing them may be fully aware of what's happening, while in others they may have no memory of the event at all. 3. Non-epileptic. The most important thing to know is that all of these seizures in FND are non-epileptic. That means unlike epileptic seizures, they don't involve abnormal electrical activity in the brain. They still affect the body in similar ways, but they stem from a different cause. Once you understand these 3 points, the many different types of FND seizures start to make more sense. Now let's dive into the specific types. Though you don't need to memorize every term, just keep in mind that they all share these core features. Here are the various types of seizures commonly experienced by people with FND. Non-epileptic seizures. These seizures are often mistaken for epileptic seizures due to symptoms like shaking or jerking. However, they are not triggered by the electrical disturbances typically found in epilepsy. Instead, they reflect a breakdown in how the body and brain interact without the abnormal brain activity seen in epileptic seizures. Davinsky, 2011. Dissociative seizures. A dissociative seizure can be particularly disorienting. During these episodes, an individual may experience a profound sense of detachment from their own body or the world around them. There's no shaking involved, but the person may lose touch with reality as though they're watching themselves from a distance. These moments can be confusing, frightening, and deeply isolating for both the person experiencing them and their loved ones. Pick et al. 2016, Eves 2024, Schmutz 2013. Functional seizures. This umbrella term covers a range of non-epileptic seizures. Symptoms can include shaking, jerking, or even a complete loss of motor control. They're often triggered by emotional stress, traumatic experiences, or physical exertion. The unpredictability of these seizures can make daily life feel like an emotional roller coaster, and they are frequently misunderstood by those unfamiliar with FND. Duque et al. 2023, Sadi, Puya et al. 2020, and 2023. Functional impaired awareness seizure, FIAD. During FIAD, a person may lose awareness of their surroundings and even have no memory of the episode once it's over. The person may continue moving around during the seizure, but their actions are automatic as if on autopilot. For those of you who experience this, the lack of memory afterward can be unsettling, leaving us feeling disconnected from our own bodies. I've never experienced such an episode, at least I don't think that I have. Functional tremors. One of the more visible symptoms of FND, functional tremors often appear as involuntary shaking, but without the abnormal brain activity seen in conditions like Parkinson's disease. For me, it was my right forearm and hand that would uncontrollably flap like a fish, what some call a princess wave. This tremor, though localized, can be deeply disorienting, and for many with FND, it's often confined to one side of the body. I've found several others who share the same experience, and it's a symptom that warrants more research. Why would so many of us have a shaking right hand that specifically shakes like this? Why are there so many of us with that specific symptom? Like, that probably points to something. I'm just not a researcher to know what it points to, but if you are a researcher, please, research that. That's a pattern. Let's keep reading. Myoclonic seizures. Myoclonic seizures involve sudden, involuntary jerks or twitches of a muscle or group of muscles. These can happen without warning and are not caused by electrical activity, typically seen in epileptic myoclonus. Though brief, they can be deeply unsettling, especially when they occur in rapid succession. Striano and Belcastro 2012, Nijsen et al. 2010. Panic-like seizures. This is one that I got. While panic attacks are often thought of as psychological events in FND, panic-like seizures are neurological in origin. These seizures can involve shortness of breath, dizziness, heart palpitations, and a sense of impending doom, much like a panic attack. However, these symptoms are not triggered by psychological stress, but by an underlying neurological dysfunction that mimics the signs of a panic attack without the typical emotional triggers. Hallett et al. 2022. This could explain why I often felt like I was having a panic attack when I had nothing to panic about. My body was just overloaded. Conclusion. Living with FND seizures is like being trapped in a body that betrays you, where each seizure feels like a new wave of confusion and fear. And yet, through understanding and awareness, there's hope. The more we talk about these symptoms, whether tremors, dissociation, or myoclonic jerks, the more we can shine a light on a disorder that has long been misunderstood. I can say from personal experience that healing is possible. It's not easy and it's not quick, but it is possible. Let's keep reading. Motor symptoms in FND, movement and coordination, impaired mobility and coordination, difficulty walking or standing without assistance, neck, shoulders, and legs feel heavy and painful when walking. Heaviness or paralysis in limbs can cause one leg to drag while walking, balance problems, and dizziness. Functional cognitive motor slowing, reduced speed and coordination of both physical movements and thought processes, sudden falls and instability. Unexpected falls or a sudden inability to maintain posture, including sudden neck falls, unable to support the head, frequent trips and falls due to lack of balance. Movement abnormalities, myoclonus, sudden involuntary jerking or twitching of a muscle or muscle group, tics, involuntary repetitive movements or sounds, facial spasms, spasms in the left side of the face starting around the eye, body spasms, left-sided body spasms starting with the eye, dystonia, involuntary muscle contractions, general intermittent dystonia, repetitive or twisting movements or abnormal postures, left-sided posturing dystonia, specific muscle contractions on the left side of the body, uncontrollable movement, can feel like a ratchet screwdriver or a flopping fish, causing sudden jerky motion, paralysis, partial paralysis, can involve either the right or the left side of the body, sometimes both. Temporary paralysis from the waist down, often following a seizure. Paralysis from the neck or ribs down after seizures. Full paralysis from the neck down at times. Paralyzed leg stays behind during walking. Weakness, right-sided weakness. Reduced strength or coordination on the right side of the body. Left-sided weakness. Reduced strength or coordination on the left side of the body. Muscle weakness in arms and legs, making it difficult to perform daily tasks. Shoulder and arm weakness. Difficulty with arm movements, often leading to a sensation of heaviness. Cognitive symptoms in FND. Cognitive fog. Difficulty thinking clearly, feeling as though you're in a haze or fog. Everything that isn't routine or habitual can become overwhelming and trigger panic symptoms. Thinking and processing delays, slowness in thinking or processing information, making it hard to keep up with normal tasks. Trouble switching between tasks or multitasking, leading to a sense of being stuck. Confusion and disorientation, a sense of confusion or inability to think straight, which can interfere with basic decision making. By the way, I have a little story about this. I used to have this, you've heard of like Steve Jobs that wore the same thing every day to eliminate having to make a decision because he would get decision fatigue and he was trying to avoid that. Well, that's sort of like what it feels like when you have FND. And I used to feel like I just didn't have it in me to make decisions. And so I'd ask my husband or my mom to please handle it. And I would get to this place where I wanted to contribute to the household. So if my husband could just handle the cognitive load, like I will help with chores or something, but can you just please handle the decision making, or can you just please lead this? So if your loved one or you maybe have trouble making decisions and it's just started since you got FND, maybe consider that that might be a symptom. Let's continue. Periods of disorientation where the mind feels trapped inside the body, difficulty with memory, blackouts and loss of consciousness. Blackouts, periods of time where memory is completely blank or the person is unaware of what happened. I didn't get that one, but if it's included in here, that probably means that somebody in my group got that. Hallucinations, experiencing things that aren't there, including auditory, visual, or sensory distortions. I did have a hallucination once, if that's what you want to call it. After I got FND, I saw a shadow person in my bedroom and I screamed. But apparently, I'm not the only one that has had hallucinations, so draw from that what you will. Loss of consciousness, episodes or fainting or passing out, often without warning, feeling drunk or disconnected. Cognitive impairment can feel like being drunk 24/7 even without drinking, leading to an overwhelming sense of disconnection from reality. This symptom is mixed with balance issues and it can feel quite embarrassing to be out in public with your family when FND makes you literally look and act drunk. You haven't swallowed a drop. I remember one day being at Walmart with my husband and he was embarrassed because he thought I was acting drunk, but I had FND and I was unsteady on my feet. And when you compare being unsteady on your feet with the cognitive fog, then how are you going to act? Basically like you're drunk. Okay, overall cognitive impairment, general difficulty with thinking, making decisions, and concentrating, unable to think clearly, which may interfere with daily activities, work, or social interactions. These symptoms just keep going on and on. You guys might want to read them on my website. And I gave you directions for that earlier, but I'll try to put a link down below. You would just scroll down the page and find the link to read an excerpt, and this is probably the excerpt that it's going to pull up if you want the right spelling of all these sources and everything. Let's keep reading. Speech symptoms in FND, speech impairment. Individuals may experience difficulty with verbal communication, including slowness, hesitation, or difficulty articulating words. This can affect the clarity and fluidity of speech. Loss of words. A common symptom is the inability to recall or find the right words during conversation. This can lead to interruptions in speech for long pauses while the speaker tries to remember the word he is searching for. Slurred speech. Slurred speech where words become mumbled or unclear is often experienced, particularly during times of fatigue or distress. This can make communication more challenging and may be mistaken for intoxication. Stuttering. Some individuals may develop stuttering or speech disruptions where they get stuck on certain words or sounds. This can result in difficulty completing sentences or a sense of frustration when trying to communicate. I remember for a while I had this tick where I would know that I needed to respond to something, but the correct words wouldn't come out, and what did come out was the phrase, "Who are you?" So, but before that, like I would stutter or just come up with a noise that could come out instead of the actual words. It was horrible. So, some variation of these things. Okay, let's keep reading. Vocal paresis. Vocal paresis refers to partial paralysis of the vocal cords causing a hoarse or weak voice. Individuals might find it hard to project their voice or speak loudly enough for others to hear clearly. Voice loss after swallowing. After swallowing, some individuals may experience temporary voice loss or difficulty speaking. This can be linked to disruption in the neurological pathways responsible for both swallowing and speech. Trouble speaking. General difficulty with speaking can occur ranging from mild struggles with clarity to complete inability to form coherent sentences. This may be episodic or persistent depending on the individual's condition. Inability to speak at times. During certain episodes, individuals may completely lose their ability to speak. Pain symptoms in FND. This is a big one, and I didn't really get this, but apparently other people do. Migraine/headaches. intense headaches or migraines that can vary in severity and duration, neuropathy, nerve damage leading to pain, weakness, numbness, or tingling, typically in the hands and feet, peripheral neuropathy. I did kind of get that one. I got a little bit of a feeling at the bottom of one of my feet, which was a little concerning. Let's keep reading. Joint pain. General pain in the joints, which may be persistent or episodic. Muscle pain. Ongoing or sharp pain in the muscles, often described as achy or throbbing. Excruciating limb pain. Sudden, intense pain in the arms or legs, sometimes linked to nerve irritation or inflammation. Sudden pain. Sharp, unanticipated pain that may appear suddenly and can affect various parts of the body. Whole body pain, a widespread pain sensation that can feel like it's affecting the entire body, often exacerbating other symptoms. Tendon and ligament pain, groin. Pain in specific areas such as the groin due to tendon or ligament issues. Temperature regulation symptoms in FND. Temperature sensitivity, hot and cold. Individuals with FND may experience extreme sensitivity to temperature changes, feeling too hot or too cold in situations where others feel comfortable. Chills in warm environments. Even in warm or hot environments, some may experience chills, a sensation of coldness, or shivering. Overheating and flushed face. Some individuals may struggle with overheating, leading to a flushed or reddened face, often accompanied by discomfort or sweating. Hearing regulation symptoms in FND. Noise sensitivity, hyperacusis. People with FND may experience an exaggerated sensitivity to sounds, finding normal or everyday noises painfully loud or overwhelming. Super hearing. Some individuals may develop heightened hearing abilities where sounds seem louder or more distinct than usual, often contributing to sensory overload. Gradual hearing loss. Over time, individuals with FND might notice a gradual decrease in hearing, which may affect one or both ears and can be distressing. Vision regulation symptoms in FND. Visual overstimulation. Individuals with FND may become easily overwhelmed by visual stimuli such as bright lights, fast-moving objects, or crowded environments, leading to discomfort or disorientation. Vision problems. People with FND can experience a range of visual disturbances that affect their ability to see clearly, including blurriness or distortion. Double vision. Diplopia. Double vision, or seeing two images of a single object, can occur, making it difficult for individuals to focus and navigate. Light sensitivity, photophobia. Intense sensitivity to light, particularly bright lights or sunlight, can cause significant discomfort, headaches, or even nausea. Loss of vision in one eye. Some individuals may experience a sudden or gradual loss of vision in one eye, leading to partial or total blindness in that eye. Tunnel vision. Tunnel vision, or the narrowing of the visual field, often occurs in one eye, making it harder to see objects outside of the central focus. Haze or halo in vision. A haze or halo effect around objects can distort the clarity of vision, making it appear as if everything is surrounded by a blurry glow or fog, inability to see hands. Some individuals may experience moments where they cannot see their hands clearly, as if they are temporarily invisible or obscured from their view. Other sensory symptoms in FND. Muscle discomfort as part of the fight or flight response. Individuals may feel as though their muscles are constantly tensed and ready for conflict even when no actual danger is present. This can cause chronic discomfort and a sensation of being physically on edge. This list of symptoms is so long, you guys. Whew, let's see if I can speed read it. Pins and needles / numbness. Sensations of tingling or numbness in various parts of the body, often affecting the hands, feet, or limbs, can occur. These sensations may be persistent or intermittent. Muscle spasms and twitching and drooping. Involuntary muscle movements, including visible twitches under the skin, can be common. These spasms might be localized or affect larger muscle groups. One person even said the left side of the mouth sometimes drooped. Connective tissue or smooth muscle spasms. Beyond skeletal muscle spasms, connective tissue or smooth muscle spasms in muscles that control internal organs may also happen, contributing to a wide range of uncomfortable sensations. Internal tremors. Some individuals experience the feeling of constant internal movement without any actual physical movement. These internal tremors can be unsettling and difficult to explain to others as they are not visible. Physical dissociation. Individuals may have episodes where they feel disconnected from their own body, such as an inability to feel their legs or feet. In some cases, they may even feel as though a part of the body, like limb, is no longer attached. Sleep and fatigue symptoms in FND. Let me just take a little break to breathe because I've been reading so much. Excuse me. All right, let's keep reading. Sleep and fatigue symptoms in FND. Chronic fatigue. Many individuals with FND experience persistent, overwhelming fatigue that doesn't improve with rest. This type of fatigue can interfere with everyday activities and can feel like a constant drain on energy. Trouble sleeping. Difficulty falling asleep, staying asleep, or experiencing restless sleep is common. Sleep disturbances can exacerbate other symptoms of FND, such as cognitive fog and increased sensitivity to pain, sleep issues, in addition to trouble falling asleep. Some people may experience fragmented sleep, waking up frequently during the night or feeling unrested upon waking up. Fatigue. Fatigue is often felt throughout the day and can be debilitating, leaving individuals feeling drained and unable to function optimally. It may not be alleviated by sleep, and the severity can vary throughout the day. Emotional and behavioral symptoms in FND. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn response, quadruple F. The body's natural response to stress or perceived danger, which can be exaggerated in FND. Individuals may experience intense emotional reactions that feel out of proportion to the situation. Startling easily. People with FND may have heightened sensitivity to sudden stimuli, causing them to startle easily or react strongly to noises, movements, or changes in their environment. Screaming episodes. Some individuals may experience episodes of uncontrollable screaming or vocal outbursts, often as a reaction to stress or overwhelming emotions. Struggle with change. Transitioning to new situations or changes in routine can be difficult, leading to feelings of anxiety, confusion, or emotional distress. This can make managing everyday life challenging. Additional research-backed symptoms. Autonomic dysregulation. Some people with FND experience autonomic dysfunction, which goes beyond temperature sensitivity. Symptoms of this may include orthostatic intolerance, feeling lightheaded, or having a rapid heart rate when standing, gastrointestinal issues, nausea or irregular bowel habits, bladder dysfunction, urinary retention or incontinence. While some of these symptoms overlap with other categories, e.g. dizziness, it's important to note autonomic dysregulation, as it highlights the disruption in brain-body communication that's often seen in FND. Mayo Clinic, and FND Hope. Broader dissociative symptoms. In addition to physical dissociation, like not feeling your legs, many people with FND experience other dissociative symptoms such as depersonalization, feeling detached from your own thoughts or emotions, derealizations, feeling disconnected from your surroundings or reality. These experiences are well documented in FND research. Campbell et al. 2023, Brown 2016, Perez et al. 2018, and can offer a more complete understanding of the condition. Other symptoms and conditions mentioned by FND patients. Coexisting connective tissue disorder, HEDS, hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, a condition that affects the connective tissues leading to hypermobility of the joints and potentially contributing to symptoms like joint pain, dislocations, and skin that bruises or scars easily. Coexisting fibromyalgia, a chronic condition characterized by widespread muscle pain, tenderness, and other symptoms like fatigue, sleep disturbances, and difficulty concentrating. Coexisting chronic fatigue, persistent and severe fatigue that doesn't improve with rest and is often associated with other symptoms affecting day-to-day functioning. Coexisting TMJ from seizures, temporomandibular joint. TMJ dysfunction caused or worsened by the physical stress of seizures, leading to jaw pain, headaches, or difficulty chewing. Skin peels, mostly on hands and eyelids, dry, peeling, or flaking skin, particularly on the hands and eyelids, which may be related to the stress or physical symptoms of FND. Hair loss, hair thinning or loss, which can result from stress, chronic illness, or as a side effect of other FND related factors. High stakes decision. Are you going to settle for living with your symptoms every day from now on, or are you going to fight? 9.7. How to track your symptoms. How this helped me understand my condition. FND, the symptom spectrum. As you can see, with so vast a list of possible symptoms, it's probable that no two FND patients are alike. You may not, and hopefully will not, experience every FND symptom on the list, but it's important to know what symptoms you do have and be able to articulate your list accurately to your doctors, caregivers, and family members. When you are mid-seizure or mid-symptom, it can be hard to communicate, so make sure you give your people a heads up beforehand. Keeping a symptom journal. I neglected to keep a good symptom journal over the long haul. That left me trying to search my memory for symptoms when I wrote this book, and it leaves me scratching my head for how to explain stuff. For example, there's a certain sensation I often feel which keeps me from sleeping, like my muscles are tensed up and won't relax. Because I hadn't taken the time to think it through, it could be challenging for me to explain the symptom to my husband in an accurate way that he would understand. I would generally just say my muscles are all clenched up and make a hand motion to describe it. Now that I'm writing this book, I've been forced to describe the symptom. Don't be like me. Consider keeping a simple symptom journal. Keeping track of symptoms, symptom descriptions, and frequency is nothing you have to pay for. A simple note on your phone, calendar will work. By the way, let's see, I think I still have it here. I have a whole bunch of these symptom mastery journals that are out in different colors. It's a 30-day tracker where you keep track of your symptoms with, let's see if I can find a page here. You just write the symptom with a simple tick mark here. And you're tracking patterns here, and then there's a free journal page But I will be coming out with a symptom tracker that's specific for FND, so be watching my website for that. But you don't have to have it. I mean, you can just use the notes app on your phone or just write things down in a notebook. It's just for ease, make it easier on you. Identifying triggers and patterns. When you track your symptoms, you can begin to see triggers and patterns. When you notice that you always get X symptom after X trigger, you now have an actionable plan to alleviate your suffering. If you stop allowing the trigger, you may just stop suffering the symptom. See how easy that is? And become a student of your patterns. Have a trusted family member help you out. Often my mom pointed out patterns and triggers I hadn't noticed, and it greatly aided my recovery. You'll find encouragement when you notice your symptom-free pattern is lengthening. For example, my neck used to suddenly give out, but as I healed, that symptom went away. Noticing the break in my pattern was very encouraging in the midst of dealing with other symptoms. What to share with your doctor? If you have a symptom journal and a deep understanding of your symptoms, you have armed yourself to have a productive conversation with your doctor, who is relying on you to tell them what the problem is. Consider typing up a simple list of your symptoms and the frequency prior to your appointment. Also, I recommend taking an advocate with you in case you can't speak or concentrate. A trusted family member can help facilitate the conversation with your doctor and keep things running smoothly. And then we go into early signs that recovery might be possible. But I think that that is enough for today. We've recorded for almost an hour here. We have again been reading from chapter 9 of FND Recovery Guide, Volume 1, 7 Evidence-Based Steps to Heal Functional Neurological Disorder. But this is part of a 2-volume series, which is available on Amazon all over the world. And we also have a bunch of symptom trackers, but there will be a new version specifically for FND, so you don't have to write all the symptoms yourself. Be watching the website for that. The link to the website will be down in the description. And then I'm currently working on writing a more simplified FND book specifically for teens and what they go through and the school related aspect of things. And I'm kind of uniquely qualified for that because I am a teacher. I have a master's degree in education, and I was a teacher when I came down with FND. I've had to quit that job, so this is kind of my way of giving back while also supporting my family. I appreciate you watching this far. If you have, go ahead and subscribe on YouTube at Real Alyssa Black or on TikTok at the same Real Alyssa Black, or join our Facebook group, which is once again called Functional Neurological Disorder FND Recovery Community, and you want the private version. See you guys next time.